Hello, and welcome to my Expansion Scapes podcast. I am Olga Aydınoğlu, and I'm a shamanic healing practitioner. I like to travel various realms of consciousness, past, present, and future, Akashic records realms, soul world realms, realms of inner self, basically. And I'd like to call them expansion scapes. And I do that for the purpose of moving away from a fear-based life and more towards a healthy, joyous life filled with love and health and happiness and abundance. The following 3 episodes are going to be like a trilogy or a triptych. In these 3 episodes, I'm going to share with you my inner journeying that led me to understand certain things and experience certain things that I think are also useful for other people. And also I share this in hopes of demystifying this kind of traveling, inner journeying within yourself. And I think it can be done by anyone, not only people who claim to have psychic perception. I think all of us have it. So I like to talk about it because I want to kind of, demystify it and help make it more of an everyday thing that can and does happen, and we can learn from it and we can apply it to our current life. Because why do this if we can't help ourselves and make our current life better in some way, shape, or form? So I decided to break this journey up into 3 episodes because I don't want to make them too long. So the first one is going to be on sacred space, protection, and dealing with resistance. It's this episode, and this is going to help you if you have resistance to traveling within. But also, I guess it can be applied to resistance to anything. The second episode is going to be focused on father, mother, and child, 3 past lives and perspectives on self-worth, abundance, and identity. So it's my actual 3 past lives that I remembered and analyzed. These are not the only lives that I remember, but these 3 are like the perfect, I don't know, I thought they were like a cool, perfect combination that gave me 3 different perspectives on the same karmic theme of self-worth, scarcity versus abundance. And the 3rd episode of the series is going to focus on self-worth, enmeshment, codependencies, self-identification, and also leading to abundance. And I know maybe it sounds like all subjects pushed together or something, but anyway, this is how I saw it, this is how I learned it, and this is what I have to share. So stick around if you want to check this out. And I hope to inspire you also to go traveling within yourself for the purpose of making your everyday life a little better every time you take a trip within. Okay, so this is the first part of sacred space, protection, and dealing with resistance. I was working a lot with sacred space recently, and I know that protection is implied in sacred space. And somehow that triggered my curiosity to learn more about that protection. And so I decided to ask my guides to teach me more about protection. And so I went to my protector guide. And if you go exploring your own spiritual team deeper, you may find that you have various types of guides who are more like specialized in different types of functions and activities. But everybody is unique, and your teams, I can't say about everybody's teams because we are unique. So I would just advise, I guess, to explore your team, and you may find that you have various guides who have various specialties, so to speak. So I connected to my protector guide, who I have been working with for a long time now, and he looks like a hawk to me. He shows himself to me as a hawk, and every time I do some kind of journeying, I often see him right above me and a little bit in front of me flying, and I see his wings, and it just feels really, really reassuring that I am in safe hands, that he's guiding me, and I am safe to travel forward. So I was talking to this protector guide, and I asked him to teach me more about protection in the scope of sacred space. And in the context of sacred space, I'll share with you this thing about my guide, which sounds like I'm only talking about myself, but actually, I'll try to kind of explain sacred space. So before I do any kind of significant activity that I want to do undisturbed and, really get into it and really do it well, I set myself in my space, as we call it, as I learned it from my teachers of shamanism, where in my own words, I understand it like this. And also, it's something that I learned from connecting to the 5 elements, to fire, water, air, earth, and spirit. Not only general elements, but also my personal 5 elements, who ended up teaching me a lot about sacred space. And you can see more of that in my YouTube channel, where this project is recorded, and you can find it there. A YouTube channel is called Expansion Scapes as well. So in my own words, sacred space, or setting space for something, I would define it as space that I allocate and prepare for a certain type of activity or a certain type of experience. And I could get deeper into it. I would say that sacred space for me is like a question, or like a vessel. A vessel that is made specifically for one drink or like one answer. And when I prepare my space, I do that by setting my intentions. So it's like I'm creating the space by sitting there and sitting with myself and setting myself, figuring out for myself, what is my intention? What do I want to experience? What do I want to do? So maybe it's a session with a client. Maybe it's me recording this podcast. Maybe it's me talking to somebody. Maybe it's me having a great time at the zoo. I don't know. So it's like a desire. It's an intention. It's almost like a pre-taste of what I want to experience. And in setting that intention, somehow, some way, I want to say like almost automatically, as I set this intention and I kind of pre-taste what I want to have, what I want to happen, I'm setting up a filter of sorts of what is welcome in that space and what is not welcome in that space. So all that is not welcome in that space is leaving, and all that is welcome and congruent with this experience that I want to experience with my intention, all that stays. So it's like I've created a vessel, which is also a question, and this vessel is made to experience only a certain type of experience. So it's like you're welcoming in only maybe like a certain type of wine for that vessel, the one that you have pre-tasted in your own inner self. And that's my personal take on sacred space. And there's more that goes into it, but I don't think that's relevant for this episode. So anyhow, I wanted to let you know a bit about how my guide looks, to explain a little bit more about sacred space and our intentions. So my guide, the hawk, the protector guide, showed himself to me this time with a little bit more detail, because I asked him about protection, and he showed himself to me with a dark cloud behind him. It was like always there. And I thought at first, oh, well, I guess maybe he's not just only a hawk, but this is also a part of him somehow, some way, because in the non-physical, things are very pliable and movable and fluent, and it's not like here in the physical, well, I have this body, I'm Olga, that's it, nothing else. But in the non-physical, you can see beings that can change shape or form according to how you communicate or what are you talking about, and they can change their color, they can change a bunch of stuff. So here was my hawk with a dark cloud behind him, and I thought that was a part of him. And indeed, then later I understood, yeah, it was a part of him because he understood a lot about darkness. Since he understood a lot about darkness, well, that makes him a great protector guide, because he protects me from darkness. It's his specialty. And then I also understood that that cloud was not only his understanding, deep understanding, and like I would say a rich experience with darkness, but he also, that's the amount of darkness I'm constantly being protected from on like in my everyday life. So it's like he's always flying a little bit in front of me and on top of me, and there's darkness above him, above his wings. And I feel like his wings are like an umbrella and they protect me from a lot of stuff. It's almost like, the wings also symbolize freedom. And so when he protects me from things, it's like I get the freedom to be me in this scope of my life as Olga. Because if he were to allow I also saw that cloud of darkness above him, and then I realized just how much protection I am having, like 24 hours a day, constantly, all the time, how much stuff I'm protected from and I don't need to deal with. Not only because, he's such a cool dude and he's doing his job very well, but, or because I'm so special, I get this special treatment. No, I understood it, that when we have an intention, like a vessel, a question for a lifetime, for me, like a lifetime of Olga, for you, perhaps lifetime of, whoever you are. So when we plan a lifetime, we set up an intention. What do I want to experience? And it is also kind of setting up a sacred space for the intention of having a life in this physical world or in this physical existence. And some things are really not welcome in the scope of that life, because then we wouldn't be able to have what we actually wanted to have. And that stuff really stays away. And I understood that if that dark stuff, that dark cloud were to penetrate somehow into my space, into me, into my life, I knew that it would totally overwhelm me. I wouldn't be able to take it. I would probably go really, really dark, depressed, or whatever, just out of control. And I would, as a result of that, I'd probably most likely not be able to do in this life what I came here to do, according to my original plan, original intention of why I wanted to be here. So here's another kind of perspective of sacred space, an intention, and I want to call it a vessel that defines an experience. And it can be as small as having a session with somebody, or as small as recording this podcast, or having fun at the zoo, or talking to somebody for some purpose, for a reason. But also it can be as big as a lifetime. And that sacred space is protected by definition, by definition of you having wanted to experience this. And it's like, by definition, the space will not welcome stuff that is not congruent with what you wanted to experience in this life. And I want to say right here, right now, that all the things that I'm talking about are all my personal understandings based on my personal experiences. And in no way do I want to make it look like or sound like or imply that what I'm saying is the truth of all truths or is true for every single person on this planet, because I am developing, I am growing, I am healing, I am changing every day. And something that I am sure of today, I am quite sure that tomorrow or the next month, I can look at this episode and I can say, man, she really knew peanuts, compared to what I experience and know today. So I do want to say that also that we are all unique. And I encourage you to explore your own self, your own inner realms, and your own consciousness, your own spiritual team, your own everything, because what I am sharing is my truth, my experience. And the reason that I'm sharing it with you is, well, A, I just like it. I have fun sharing things. And B, I am actually hoping to perhaps inspire or trigger a curiosity to explore yourself more so that you can also get your own truths, your own understandings and adventures, and then perhaps one day share it with me. And I love to hear stories of how people went and explored something in the non-physical and then they share it, and it makes my life richer. So this is the bit about sacred space and a little bit about protection. And now the resistance part. So when I asked my guide to teach me more about protection, I immediately felt fear and resistance to learning about protection, because I almost pre-tasted that I will experience or I will see something dark. Because come on, if I'm learning about protection, whatever, with my Olga brain, I decided that if I'm going to learn about protection, chances are I'll see something scary that I need to protect myself from. So I was really resisting that, and I was afraid. And not only afraid, but I was pre-tasting of, okay, what if I'm going to see a lot of dark stuff, let's say a lot of scary beings or something all around me, and I don't know, violating my space and I don't know, sucking energy off me. I was imagining this, okay? I was imagining that I might see something scary that I haven't seen before, and how it's really not doing me any good, and how it's causing me harm. And then I was more afraid of not even those beings, but I was afraid of what I might think of myself. I might go and feel ashamed of myself, and I may feel betrayed by myself. That, Olga, how could you do this for such a long time? You have been allowing all these creatures or beings or whoever energies to harm you continuously, and you did not do anything about that for that long. So I was afraid of looking myself in the eyes and realizing that, yeah, we've been allowing this for a long time. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to feel ashamed of myself, and I'm going to feel that I have betrayed myself once again, yet again, allowing my life to be less than healthy, less than great, of my own free will. Of my own free will, I've been allowing this to happen. So what I did with this resistance, and what you can also do when you find it that you're afraid of something, you want to do something, but you find that you have resistance to something, like in the form of fear, or possible pre-taste of shame or whatever it is, instead of shoving it down the rug or something, sweeping it under the rug, or pretending like it doesn't exist, or forcing yourself through the experience, which would require a lot of energy, instead of going head straight into it and just using a lot of force, or the opposite of ignoring it and pretending like it doesn't exist. And then sometimes when we ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist, we kind of just procrastinate. We may procrastinate and we may decide that, you know what, I'm not going to go ahead and do this thing I wanted to do. Why? Because I have some vacuuming to do. That's it. Okay, so one of the things you can do when you notice that you have resistance, first of all, allow yourself to feel it and understand it and let it be okay. So that's what I did regarding my resistance. And then I took it, like a cloud of stuff, and I just handed it to my guide who I was working with, the protector hog guide, and I handed it like a cloud of stuff, and I gave it to him, and I said, look, I would like to study about protection, but I am experiencing this resistance come up. And I just showed him everything that I just explained to you in detail. And I said, please help me with it. I would still like to go on to learn about protection, but this thing is in the way. So please help me with it. Maybe clear it or do whatever it is that you can do. Please do that because, I would still like to go on and learn about protection. Even though I have this resistance, please help me with it. And how he helped, he didn't clear it as probably like I wanted him. I would have wanted him to just clear it, and I'm like, oh, I don't have that resistance anymore. Great. That would have been really great, I guess. But, he did something I think it's even cooler. He left it alone, and I was drawn to his chest, which was made of white feathers, and it had little specks of dark feathers. Just like tiny little specks, like almost like one little feather or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But there was this contrast of black and white. And he showed me that, yes, you are experiencing this resistance. And he showed it to me like, I don't know. So I didn't draw a picture because this is a podcast and there is probably like only audio versions somewhere out there, and this is a video version, so I'm just going to paint a picture with my words. So he showed me a series of parallel black ribbons floating from one side, like from left towards center. I'm just picking a random direction. Wasn't really left or right. I don't know. So it's like it's coming from one side and it's floating like waves or something. And I'm showing with my hand, like my fingers. So it's like what you're experiencing, he said. And he didn't use words, just like, I don't know, some kind of psychic communication, which I'm trying to translate into words. So he said, you're experiencing this resistance, which is fear-based, and he showed it like black ribbons floating from one side towards the center. And he said, you can also have a different perspective, which he showed it to me as white ribbons, same kind of ribbons, and floating from another direction, the opposite direction, towards the black ribbons, and they all were floating towards each other like waves, and they were fitting in with each other perfectly, like black, white, like a zebra. And they became kind of like one blanket, or one material, or one something. I don't know if tapestry is a good word for it. Anyway, they became one, like one, I will call it a blanket, okay? So he said that you can put yourself down from this fear-based perspective and fight it or hate it and have a negative attitude towards it and fight through it if you like. But you can also look at it as the white ribbons, and like his chest was black and white. It was somehow very similar. And also like this wisdom is a part of him. of his nature. So he was sharing like a part of himself, like his nature, his wisdom. And the white ribbons were this. He said, also try to see it from another side, which is less fear-based and more love-based. So he said, let's say that you do see a bunch of scary stuff as you're learning about protection. Let's say you are going to see a lot of dark, scary stuff that has been violating you or harming you, and you have been allowing this to happen for many lifetimes, perhaps. Let's say you are going to see this. But instead of having a reaction to it, which is also self-violating in the form of accusing myself of betraying myself and just making myself ashamed of myself, and more dark stuff, more of self-violation, more self-punishment, more self-degradation, more whatever it is, dark stuff. He said, instead of reacting like this, why don't you see the dark stuff that you have just uncovered as evidence of your self-love for yourself, as evidence of you having made a decision that you want to be more loyal to your own self, instead of like, as opposing to my fear of betraying myself. Why don't you see this as evidence of you having decided to be more loyal to yourself, to your life, to experience more life, your decision to say yes to more life, as evidence of having decided to shine a bit more, to have decided to become a bit more healthy, having decided to experience life in a broader, I guess, I think you know what I'm saying. Why don't you see the dark stuff that you will have unveiled as evidence of you loving yourself, actually, and trying to be more of yourself, trying to shine brighter, trying to be yourself more, live bigger. I don't know. He said that is like the opposite kind of reaction or perspective you can have on this event of you seeing dark stuff, basically, that you need to work with. So a lot of us, I think, can have this resistance to shadow work, where we may be afraid of the darkness that we may see within us, that of our own free will we have been, allowing this to happen. And so he said that, yeah, you could look at it as the black ribbons, fear-based perspective. You can have that reaction, which is fear-based reaction. Or you can look at it as the white ribbons floating and towards the black ribbons and becoming one, like a zebra. You can look at it as the love-based perspective, where you see this as evidence of you loving yourself a bit more today, to have agreed to go on this quest and resolve it. And then he said there's a third perspective. So there's a fear-based perspective. There is a love-based perspective. And when they come together like a zebra to create one, I decided to call it blanket, okay? He said that you can allow both of them to be truth, and both of these perspectives to exist. You don't have to destroy the fear-based perspective or erase it somehow so that only the love-based perspective exists. Because even when you do that, you're still going to be violent or harmful or, violent to the fear-based perspective. And that's still kind of allowing more violence to happen within yourself, because you do have those two perspectives simultaneously. You have the fear-based perspective. He was telling me, I'm not telling you. Okay, you discover your own stuff. Okay. He's telling me, you have the fear-based perspective. You have the love-based perspective. If you decide to cancel out, destroy, kill, violate one of those perspectives so that only the other one can exist, well, first of all, it's kind of impossible because that perspective still exists. So it's going to be almost like an eternal war of violating this one side of you, which exists. And you can't deny it. It just is. It exists. So you don't need to kill it or violate it in any way, shape, or form. It just is. Let it be. But also allow the other side to be, to exist. The love-based perspective. And when they come together, creating this zebra pattern of black, white, black, white, black, white, and kind of like merging together, he meant that both exist at the same time. Both have a right to exist, just like you have the right to exist. So allow both of them just to be. Allow both of them to exist. And in them coming together like this into one truth. The black ribbons is a truth. The white ribbons is a truth. When they come together as zebra, they are also a truth. Allow that zebra to be a truth. And when I allowed that to be a truth, both of them true at the same time, I don't know what to call it. Maybe a neutralization happened or something, or maybe more love happened and acceptance, that I was kind of okay with that resistance. I was like, yeah, I'm afraid, but also it is evidence of me loving myself. So neither of the perspectives have to die or disappear. They both live. There was no death today. There was life. Both lived. There was no battle today. There was a union of black and white ribbons into one blanket of a zebra. This is going to be the end of this episode on sacred space protection and dealing with resistance. So thank you for listening. I hope this was useful. Please comment, subscribe, share. I am interested in your comments. I am interested if this brings up any questions or any of your stories to share. Okay, so I just saw on my camera 5151. I don't know what that means, but seems like a cool number to stop the video on. Thank you, and hopefully see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.